You're getting a player. I mean, I talked about him already, kind of his play style and stuff. It kind of just fits perfectly because I feel like that's exactly what they were missing. You have those two forwards that, are arguably all NBA type forwards on
Stars,
that team,
right?
all stars, you know what I mean? And then you have Jalen Suggs, who was injured. He's gonna have this comeback season, and then you're getting Desmond Bane to be your two guard. I feel like that's a lineup that is, especially in the Eastern Conference, it's pretty scary, bro. And they all can defend, like you said, and they have Wendell Carter Jr. holding down the paint, so it's a bright future for them. And like you said, I think they wanted the trade now.
Super valuable player, an X factor. He's been an unsung hero for the Celtics, bro. I mean, let's be honest. Derek White coming from the Spurs, obviously got coached by Pop, and he's done everything for that team, and he's defended. He's been able to turn himself into a fringe all-star, and I think he's extremely valuable to what they do. And we talked about Jalen Brown, we talked about Jason Tatum, but I think he's going to have to step up too, especially if the Celtics don't look to trade him. The reason I was kind of flirting with Pritchard being the other standout player is sixth man of the year and also just a little younger.
I couldn't tell you who it is going to be exactly, but I think one of our bench players are going to have a great night tonight. I think someone's going to hit like 4 or 5 threes. That's kind of what I feel. I feel being at home. We always talk about it. The home team, their role players always play better at home. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Aaron Wiggins again, honestly, or maybe like a Isaiah Joe comes out, hits a couple threes to get it going. I think we're not gonna only make 3 threes this game. That's I know we're not going to, because honestly, if we do, then we might not win that game or this game, to be honest. So what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boys over here at 3-Man Weave. I'm your co-host CJ, here with my lovely co-host ZD. How are you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm in the building. I had to rep the Japan Shohei jersey, honestly, because he's pitching, but we're here to talk about basketball, man. And I've been doing good, man. I've been in the building. I always like to say I'm above ground, feeling good, bro. It's all another day, so it's an opportunity to be great. We got a pivotal game 5 to discuss. I don't really know what else to say. Just this is probably the biggest matchup ever in franchise history for both teams. But we'll talk about that later. So just wanted you guys to understand the magnitude of the situation. Crazy trade had happened recently,
Out
obviously.
of the blue.
Sharania broke, yeah, Sean out the blue.
Yeah.
But yeah, tight. But Shams broke the news. Obviously, the new Woj, but yeah, Desmond Bane, bro. We'll talk about him, and then offseason files. Like I said, LA till I die. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the Boston Celtics because for you guys that don't know, we've been going in alphabetical order. We're gonna give every team a shot at the table, talk about their offseason, see what 3-Man Weave boys can assess. But CJ, how you feeling, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great, bro. We chopped it up as we always do before we recorded, and we were just kind of talking about how our day's been. And I told you, this is my 5th day working in a row, but I feel great. Ready to get this game going later on tonight. Was
Oh
super
yeah.
excited to chop it up with you about that trade and previews of finals and also the Boston Celtics. But just excited, man. I got like a lot of motivation right now, and I'm amped up,
Yes,
so
sir.
I can't complain, bro. We're above
I
ground, like
love to
you
hear it.
always say.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I love to hear that, man. It's let's just hop right into it, man. Like I
Yeah.
said, man, Shams broke the news. Uh, Desmond Bane headed to the Orlando Magic. Just to give you guys an overview of the trade, Memphis Grizzlies, they decided to part ways with Desmond Bane. He went to the Orlando Magic. The Grizzlies received Contavious Caldwell Pope. I think this is the craziest part of the trade. I think it's 4 unprotected first round picks, which is, we'll get into that in a second. Cole Anthony, and yeah, I mean, they got some service in the backcourt. Obviously, KCP is a veteran, an NBA champion as well. But those picks are kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
honestly, I was not really shocked at this, bro. I'll just go right into my thoughts and in my notes. I think the Magic are in win now mode. It's funny because we're talking about the Celtics next, bro, and it has something to do with that. And I'll be honest. We talked about it last episode, but it hasn't dropped just yet. But for people that don't know, the Eastern Conference has been under the strength and the power of the Boston Celtics for at the mercy basically for the last 3 years or something like that, 4 years. And there's a window that's been open now with the Jason Tatum injury. Obviously, their salary cap situation is honestly not too pretty. They owe a lot of money to a lot of different players, so they're going to have to make decisions on the back end, but we'll get into that later. But why that ties into the Magic is because they see an opportunity here, bro.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, bro. Let's be honest. Desmond Bane is one of the best shooters we have in the NBA. He's shooting 41% career three-point shooter, bro. He came in, he's from TCU, he came into the NBA as a standstill three-point guy. They did not think he was going to turn into
what he
I mean,
did.
I mean, look at that
For
value that they
unprotected, bro.
got.
Yeah.
Bro. They got a future because of that guy, and I don't think the Grizzlies really foresaw that, but they will take that. I think what's interesting about the Grizzlies side of this too is like with Desmond Bane, Ja, Jaren Jackson. Be honest, CJ, that wasn't working out, bro, and it's okay. I think these last 2 years for Ja, we had talked about it in the 3-man weave group chat, but where have they really gotten, right? They got bounced in the first round versus a team that's in the finals, but still, Ja was obviously suspended for 8 months, so that season was gone, and then injuries, they're always hurt, and so I think the Grizzlies saw this as an opportunity to get a future, but I think the Magic are really the team that had the upper hand in this trade just based off the fact that their core, and let's talk about it, Jalen Suggs, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner. That core right there took the Celtics 5 games. It's nothing too crazy. Obviously, you could say if you're a Magic naysayer or whatever, this is a risk to take, but I'll be honest with you. I know me and CJ have been talking highly of them all season, and at this point, they were ready to go semi all in. I wouldn't say it's all in, but it's definitely a retool of their current roster.
Mm-hmm.
And Desmond Bane provides honestly, I would say a second or tertiary playmaker. I would say he's going to be third fiddle. But I have a question for you. In terms of like ranking and just who's getting a bucket, it probably goes Paolo. Do you think Desmond Bane is second in that order or Franz? Because I was going to bring it up. I think the Magic are going to struggle to figure that out.
I think with just the shooting of Desmond Bane and kind of his playmaking as well, I think he might be second fiddle, but I feel like you said, Franz and Desmond are finna have that battle. Obviously Paolo is going to be the number one option, and we kind of know where his game lacks, but the type of player that they got in Desmond Bane, it kind of filled in a hole that they were needing on the offensive side of the ball, at least, and I think, like I said, I don't know. He'll probably be third just because I think Franz is also like kind of a playmaking wing as well, and he kind of needs the ball to get into like scoring situations, and he could play off the ball as well. But I just think the way that Desmond Bane, like his play style, will kind of just I feel like he might average more points than Franz, but he could probably still be the third fiddle if that kind of makes sense.
I see what you're saying.
Because of the threes, yeah.
Yeah, I can see both sides to that, so I love that take. Desmond Bane also can guard. I think this is the secret sauce here to this trade. Obviously, we talk about the offensive statistics. We've been talking about it for the last couple minutes, but also another reason why the Magic traded for him is he can play defense. I think his defense is underrated. He's another guy, 3-and-D guy, kind of an underrated defender, but he can't stop a superstar, but he's not a traffic cone, and he's a bulkier guard. He averaged, obviously the 20 points. I think he's shooting 40% from deep, but his defensive statistics weren't too bad either. And I think that's the key for me here is I think the Magic won this trade for now. These are my opinion. Obviously, we haven't seen anything what's going to happen with those picks, so we don't really know. Mm-hmm. The Grizzlies can offload those picks later, so I'm not going to play on hypotheticals here, but I think right now the Magic did win this trade. I also think the Grizzlies did a couple good things too here. I think they got rid of a massive contract in Desmond Bane, and then they got the future.
Yeah, the 4 first-round picks.
And Cole Anthony, Cole Anthony's no scrub. He's going to be able to help. Obviously, John Morant with the point guard duties whenever he goes to the bench, but I think those 4 unprotected first-round picks is the ultimate star of the show in this trade for the Grizzlies, and I can see why. G.G. Jackson, Jalen Wells, they got guys who could do similar things to Desmond Bane on their team, and as long as Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. are there, they obviously felt comfortable making this deal. So what are your thoughts, man? I don't know if you like saw it immediately, but this was one like I happened to like refresh on X and I saw it. Like it
Yeah.
was like 26 seconds ago.
Yeah, no, I had seen the notification from ESPN, and when they have like trades and stuff, it's like the red light
Oh yeah.
like emoji and
Yeah,
stuff. So I
yeah. It's like
saw it, and I was like,
yeah, yeah.
"What? Desmond Bane is on the Magic now?" And yeah, I feel like for people, the audience that have been keeping up with this all year, I would say I'm kind of a Magic fan. I feel like that's kind of been my darling of the NBA, and I've been praising them highly. I put Paolo on the third team all playoffs. I think very highly of them and kind of their future. And with them getting Desmond Bane, like you said, and as we're gonna get into the conversation about the Celtics, the East is gonna be wide open, and I think they saw that and
Right.
they decided to like you said, be all in a sense, because they did risk their future, and I don't think I think they're going to be a solidified playoff team, barring injuries and whatnot, because that's kind of what held them back this year. But even with them still being injured, they were able to get that 7th seed this year. So I think that kind of goes
They
to show
played
just the
well.
type of talent and the development that they've had on the Magic. And then when you're getting a player, I mean, I talked about him already, kind of his play style and stuff. It kind of just fits perfectly, because I feel like that's exactly what they were missing. You have those two forwards that are arguably all NBA type
All
forwards on
stars.
that team,
Right.
all stars. You know what I mean? And then you have Jalen Suggs, who is injured. He's gonna have this comeback season, and then you're getting Desmond Bane to be your two guard. I feel like that's a lineup that is especially in the Eastern Conference,
Scary.
it's pretty scary, bro. And they all can defend, like you said, and they have Wendell Carter Jr. holding down the paint, so it's a bright future for them. And like you said, I think they wanted the trade now. Obviously, like I said, obviously me just saying that they're going to be a solidified playoff team. The pick might not be the greatest, but that's still 4 first round picks, and we've seen the type of players that the Grizzlies have been drafting for the past 2-3 seasons. The GG Jacksons, the Jalen Wells. You know what I mean? They're not high round draft picks, so they're still able to develop. So I think I wouldn't say it's an equal trade per se, but like you said, not trying to get too far ahead of ourselves and think of like, because we don't know what those picks are
We
gonna
don't
come
know.
to. We don't know how well Desmond
We can
Bane's gonna
see
be.
them.
We're obviously speculating a lot, but I think from just like initial reactions when I saw it, I was like, that's what the Magic needed. Granted, I probably wouldn't have traded away 4 first round picks, but that being said, he is an all star type player, and he is exactly what they needed on the offensive side of the ball. And like you said, he's no slouch on the defensive side as well. So I think it's great, man. Like I think they're. I mean, I said they were going to be a top three seed this season at the beginning of the year. I think they're still going to be in that area for me, honestly. At least top four. I think they're going to have home court advantage going into this season. So, barring injuries, I can't tell the future, but that's my prediction for the type of team that I think they're going to be, just because they kind of got the type of player that they needed. They were lacking 3-point shooting and kind of another playmaker to come off that bench, or obviously just a secondary playmaker. Sorry, not coming off the
Somebody.
bench, but just someone else besides Paolo. Essentially, obviously Jalen Suggs is going to be there, so he's going to be that other playmaker. But having multiple playmakers is never a bad thing in the league. So
Right.
super excited to see how they end up doing, bro. I think this is a great trade for them. I think it was a great trade for Memphis too, honestly. Like of course, like Desmond Bane was a huge part of their team, but I think if they have a healthy season with all their players, they can also be a playoff team. So we'll see, bro. We'll see how that goes. I think I'm obviously, like you said, I'm more impressed with they were able to get those 4 first round picks, because that's insane, and their
Right.
track record kind of speaks for itself. Even if it's not a highest draft pick, like they're still gonna probably be able to draft well and develop that
Oh
talent.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah. I have a question for you. Do you think the Magic make this trade if the Celtics aren't where they are right now?
I don't think they make this trade. I don't think they probably give up as many 1st round picks, but I
I
think
agree.
they trade for someone. I don't know who that would have been. I couldn't tell you like off the top of my head, but I feel like they
Right,
they
right.
they were going to make a move this offseason. I just didn't know what it was, and it was kind of the type of player that I was expecting them to get. So I wouldn't say they would have gave up as much capital, draft capital per se, But KCP kind of had a type season, and Cole Anthony was kind of he's like their glue guy. So it's not like they gave him scraps because KCP is a great player. He could, for all we know, he could have a bounce back year in Memphis and end up shooting lights out like he was for Denver. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they would have if Boston was fully healthy, like this trade per se with all their capital, but I think they would have definitely made a move. I just don't know who that would have been exactly.
Yeah, I don't think this trade would have went down this way if Boston isn't in the picture like how they are, and let's just roll into that, man. I'm not gonna start with Tatum, but I think so. The season was they're the defending champions. Obviously, last season they won the NBA Finals. They're the clear favorites to repeat. To be honest with you, I think if I'm not mistaken, I had Cavs Thunder, you had Celtics Thunder.
Yes.
Okay, so me and CJ were on, similar pages. I thought they were going to lose in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I said, I don't think they're going to climb the mountain again. But I'll start off by saying this: my mind quickly changed as the season went on. They continued to get better and better, and we're the clear second seed this season. It was, I think they were able to battle, withstand injuries. KP has been hurt. I don't think he's been in the lineup, bro, like whatsoever, really, during the regular season. I saw him during a couple games, but I don't think he got to the games limit. But he was kind of in and out of the lineup. They were able to have Peyton Pritchard's season, which was outstanding. Probably between me and CJ, he was like the best player on the Celtics with quotation marks in terms of, we didn't expect that from him, but it was great to see that he could provide that value. Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, I mean, those three guys continue to carry the torch for the Celtics right now, and I think that they continue to be the heart of their team, and they were able to battle. I think they had a couple really good matchups over the course of the regular season. Like I remember they had a pretty good one on Christmas, and yeah, man, Boston, I think they finished 64-18, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have been the first seed any other season if the Cavs really didn't have no, they did finish first, right?
They finished second. It was the Cavs.
No, they finished second. It was the Cavs.
The Cavs went 64-18. They were 61.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I had it flipped.
No,
yeah, they had 61-21. But yeah, bro, like I don't know. They were really dominating the entire regular season, and I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, like they're gonna probably repeat here, but we saw what they did against the Magic. We were talking about it a second ago. Obviously, they took care of business. I think it was in 5 games, but their team played really together in that series. I think you said it, bro. Paolo did pretty well against their defense. That was pretty shocking, but outside of that, the Magic couldn't really score. So, obviously their net rating, defensive net rating, is a little peaked. But I think that Knicks series, and we'll just roll right into it. I think that's just where everything changed, bro. I think literally the Celtics were on a path to probably repeating. If I'm not repeating in terms of winning, maybe, but going to the finals, I'll say. Yeah, and I guess what happened to Jason Tatum completely, it changes the course of history. Honestly, if we're gonna be honest, I was gonna say, like, I didn't really realize it in the moment, but that's why I was so like hyped up. I think I was hyped up a few episodes ago about this episode, because I was like, bro, like it's crazy because the Celtics are on a completely different path now, and it's something I just didn't foresee. Obviously, when your superstar player goes down, I think it was in game 4, right? He ruptured his Achilles at the end.
Yeah.
And so
they went down 3-1 because when they lost that. Yeah.
And again, like Jaylen Brown, honestly, they've always gotten cooked by point guards as well. But like I think they got exposed in that series. Just their defense. Obviously, the Tatum injury didn't help, but I just don't think they were actually together as a team. And it's unfortunate to say, whenever your superstar goes down like that, that changes the course of history. And I think it was going really well for the Celtics up until that night. And then I think since that night, we've kind of changed their outlook. We've changed our outlook on that team, to be honest with you. And I'm not a Celtics fan, but I never want to see a superstar player get hurt. I'm a fan of Jason Tatum's game, and I respect basketball, but it definitely hurts them. And I think, it leaves the East wide open, bro. Like we talked about it. The Magic have an opportunity to do something, but even teams like the Knicks, the Cavs, right? Like their windows are now open much more. I think for me, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White are probably the three most important players currently that they have on the roster. They have a lot of decisions to make, man. I have the numbers here. I think I think he's gonna make like 55 million. I think next season. And that's a big number, obviously, for somebody who's not gonna be playing. But obviously, he's the franchise superstar of the team, and that's something that the Celtics are definitely willing to endure. You have to be honest here. Jason Tatum is a franchise altering player. If I'm the Celtics too, I'm bootstrapped to him and I'm willing to do whatever he wants. So we'll just say that. Kind of similar to Atlanta with Trae Young. They don't want to trade their player. They're not going to trade their franchise player, a player that's been with their team the entire way. And I think it's just a testament to the team that they've been able to build. They believe in their superstar. They feel like he's going to be able to come back from a ruptured Achilles. I mean, he is young, but we've seen it before. It's kind of similar to a Kobe, KD even, but it's going to be tough for him to be that same type of player and for that contract to make sense if he's not living up to the billing. Right now, it makes sense. First ballot Hall of Famer, franchise altering player, like I just said. And again, just the heartbeat of the Celtics core. That guy's not going anywhere. So we'll start with that. Also, I would say a top 8 player in the NBA. I think at times he isn't as great as we know he can be. But I think this season he had a tremendous year. Jason Tatum, I didn't talk about it much, but his regular season was tremendous. I think we talked about it on our All NBA episode, but career high in assists. I think for me and you, that was the most surprising thing. But Jaylen Brown, I mean, another high price point player, bro. I think it's like a 54, another $50 million player as well. And you can say what you want, but he's a Finals MVP, and that needs to be thought of here. Jason Tatum is not. Jaylen Brown continues to perform well under the pressure and the bright lights, and I think that signifies why that price tag is so high. For me, I'm going to be honest with you right now, and this is an extremely hot take. I know you're going to clip it. I think Jaylen Brown has more value than Jason Tatum does for the first time in his career. Right now.
Is that because of the injury?
It is. It is. And I think the Celtics, so those two players are great, and they've brought them a championship, and I just think they have a massive decision to make, especially when we see, because it's a hypothetical, we're not going to talk about it, when we see how Tatum plays after this injury. So that's in 2 years. It's not going to be next season, and it'll be the season after that. So I don't know what it's going to be like for Jaylen Brown in that time frame, but I guarantee you he's going to have an opportunity to outplay Tatum's value because he won't be on the court. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to ask you that question. Do you feel the same way? Are you rocking with that take? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, bro. Honestly, I mean, obviously with Tatum being injured, he's not going to be playing for, like you said, 2 seasons. So Jaylen Brown can really, show him why he's the Finals MVP, what makes him great, and being the two-way player that he is. Obviously I think with the Tatum injury, he's gonna have to step up on the offensive side of the ball, and I think he's gonna have to be their initiator in a sense, because they don't really have a true point guard. It's kind of like a motion offense in a sense. Everyone's just kind of moving around, getting an open shot, pass, kind of like the Pacers in a sense, just a little like not as fast paced, but their offense where they're just looking for the open man, So I think Jaylen Brown can really prove to him his value and show everyone why he is getting paid as much as he is.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, exactly. And I think, this kind of brings me into my next player, and I battled here. These are the standout ones on the Celtics roster right now, and all 3 of these guys are sort of at a high price tag for their current value. But it's worth it. It's worth it. But Derek White, man, I ended up going with him over Peyton Pritchard. I think the Celtics also see it that way too, so that's why I did so. I think Derek White is getting a 31 million a year. I think he signed an extension. It was 131 with like a $4 million signing bonus at 126. If I have the numbers right off the top of my head, but super valuable player, an X factor. He's been an unsung hero for the Celtics, bro. I mean, let's be honest. Derek White coming from the Spurs, obviously got coached by Pop, and he's done everything for that team, and he's defended. He's been able to turn himself into a fringe all-star, and I think he's extremely valuable to what they do. And we talked about Jaylen Brown, we talked about Jason Tatum, but I think he's going to have to step up too, especially if the Celtics don't look to trade him. The reason I was kind of flirting with Pritchard being the other standout player is Sixth Man of the Year, and also just a little younger. I feel like that value, Peyton Pritchard is starting to play himself into having that same value as like a Derek White or one of those types of players, just because he is that, he is scoring at that level, at that size, and he is providing that value. And there are teams in the NBA that are going to be willing to pay him $120 million. So that was kind of my thoughts on that. But I feel like those three players are really solid, and they're all at high price points, but I think the Celtics have to make some decisions. I feel like those three guys probably aren't going anywhere, though. So I did want to state that. But I'll just roll right into, Dr. Z's offseason plan. These are just kind of my thoughts, bro. I'm no NBA analyst, but I feel like this is what the Celtics can do to make it a little bit better for them. And it's funny, I'm Team LA, but here I go trying to help the Celtics. Starting off with number one, bro, they got to rebalance their payroll. We talked about it, bro, for a second. That I didn't even go through everybody's contract, but there's a Drew Holiday on the team that's overvalued at a high number. I think for me and CJ, he's the most improperly valued contract on the roster right now. It's sad to say, but I just don't think he's the Drew Holiday of 3 years ago. And so they're going to have to look at that person first, in my opinion, in terms of offloading and trying to get value. To me, I think Drew's a great player. He still has a lot of value, but it's just he's an expensive guy. And I think they're flirting with the $500 million, I think it's like in between 470 and 500, depending on some triggers. That's an expensive roster, and that puts you in the luxury tax for sure. For sure. So if they want to have any room to be able to breathe with cap, they're going to have to move a Drew Holiday and Al Horford, a Kristaps Porzingis to gain some more flexibility on their roster. And it's sad to see those guys go, NBA champions, but all of them can provide some value in the trade market. And so those were my three guys. I don't feel like they're willing to trade Pritchard or White, Brown, or Tatum. Those guys, the Celtics actually do have like four untouchable guys, you could say, to them that are very valuable to what they do. But I feel like Horford, KP and Drew Holiday are probably the most likely to go, and they're also more expensive. So I feel like they're good trade pieces, bro. Some trade bait. And then second, I'll just go into the second opinion that I have. I feel like they just need to shift into retool mode, bro. And what that means is they're not in a rebuilding situation, but they need to reassess their roster and decide where they're going in the future. I brought this up, and I didn't want to rock the boat too much, but they could trade a Jaylen Brown or a Jason Tatum to get their future back. I don't want to pose that question, but we saw what happened with the Dallas Mavericks this season, so nothing's really off the table in the NBA. You never know what could happen. But they need to be looking towards the future. And when I say the future, 2030, 2031, when these guys are older, and what's going to happen there if they're still winning, they're still doing their thing, but they're having to pay the luxury. They're getting bad draft picks at the end of the draft, so they can't really rebuild through there. It's going to get tough. And I think they have to shift their mindset from championship, because it's really hard to do this, last year, to retool. We have to figure out a way to get back there. We're not even a contender right now, to be honest, with no Tatum.
Yeah.
So that's the truth. You got to move quick, but that's why I have that second point in there, is because I know it's going to be hard for Boston to realize that, and it's really sad. It's sad, but they're not a contender without Jason Tatum. Their team isn't whole, and I don't feel like they're going to be able to compete for NBA Finals trophy with that. Thirdly, they got to target young low cost efficient guys, bro. I'm talking like I think they have picks 28 and 32 in June's draft, bro, if I'm not mistaken. So they can make some noise there. And we haven't done our draft recap just yet, but I think Boston has drafted what Aaron Nesmith, obviously Tatum, right? JB, like they have a proven track record of drafting some guys who've panned out in the NBA, and I think it kind of goes to show you their front office has the right their their heads in the right space, especially whenever it's on draft night. And I feel like it's a lot harder to get great value at the end of a draft, but these guys are cheaper. And if you can mold them into something, again, like Nikola Jokic, second round pick, Draymond Green, second round pick, Brunson, right? Like there's plenty of value there too. But I think the Celtics really have to shift towards focusing on their younger core. And that's, taking an assessment and being like, do we really need Al Horford on the team? Do we really need Kristaps Porzingis on this team? Got like guys that are vets that have been here decade plus. Like we need to really shift our mindset and maybe lean into a Luke Cornett. I don't know, but he's younger. He could provide some value, and yeah, bro, it's interesting, man. Like I think they do that. Like they definitely have a younger core, but it's also like they don't do that. Like Derek White's a little older, Horford's a little older, KP's a little older. They're like, even like, I don't know, like Tatum's kind of climbing, JB will climb. So they got to start leading towards their younger guys, bro. And I think to me, those are like the main three ways of how they'll be able to clear up their off season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, you said it perfectly, bro. That's kind of my thinking behind it as well. They're definitely going to have to figure out, for one, their salary cap, figure out what they're going to do. Obviously, they have to get someone, like you said, probably more than likely it's going to be Drew Holiday. He's probably the most expensive with kind of what he's been able to provide for them. Obviously, he's a great player, but he's kind of getting up there in age, and it's he does have value in this market, so they'll be able to get something from him like for that, and just figuring out who's gonna be who they can pick up, if they end up trading him or trading whoever, like filling that hole for whoever was in that position, So you said it perfectly, bro. I don't really have much to say else leading on that. I feel like you described it. You being a Lakers fan, you don't like the Celtics, bro. So you definitely did a great analysis of them and kind of what they're
no coaching changes either.
No
front office changes. It's all just their roster. They don't need to make a massive. It's just they need to focus on their roster and reshaping it, bro, and figuring out who they can get for Drew Holiday and Al Horford and Kristaps and some of their older guys. And I don't know if they'd be interested in trading Derek White. I doubt it, but he is really valuable right now, and I would argue he's the most valuable he will be ever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's a now or never situation, bro. I don't know, Celtics faithful. Don't hate me, hate the game. Obviously, this is out of my control, but I do want to say I'm praying for you guys. I hope Jason Tatum has a speedy recovery. You don't want to see that. They've been dominant the last few years. I know the East is low-key pretty excited about it, but just goes to show you, you're the Lakers' future flipped in a night. Your future can flip in a night. In a wrong step from your superstar player or one trade or whatever, it can change the course of history. And I think this is one of those cases, unfortunately. Just kind of stopping the Celtics championship window. I'm gonna be honest. I think that window is much smaller now.
All right, bro. Man. Thunder up, baby. Ready for Game 5. Ready to see what the boys got tonight, and keep watching hoops, bro. That's all I gotta say to end this.
Always. I feel like that's got to be our thing. Just keep watching hoops.
Keep watching hoops. Was there anything else you wanted to let the people know before we head out, bro?
Yeah, bro. Just Pacers fans, stay down for sure. Don't get too excited. You get the lead. You got to just be patient and really battle through. You guys saw what happened in Game 4, but I'm rocking with the Thunder in this one, bro. I gotta just say, I'm not shocked anymore. I feel like they got it in the bag. I feel like they're already NBA champions, but I could be talking out of my head. They got to still earn that, and hopefully, I just want to see you. I want to see you maybe shed a tear, man. Hopefully, you get that moment, and that would be beautiful to me. I know the Thunder haven't won ever like ever, bro.
Ever.
They're like the team that I think Game 5 played, like you said. That's why you said it like that, because that happens to the Thunder, bro. Like that
Yes,
type of
bro.
stuff happens to the Thunder, and like so I know it'll be a lot of dark times that people may not think are dark or whatever, but I think they're here, bro. Like they can take this shit. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I think the boys are ready. I'm all thundered up for you, man.
Yes,
Don't worry
sir.
about that.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
no
Yeah.
thunder for
Yes,
sure.
sir. Thunder up, baby. Well, if y'all liked
Thunder
and
up.
enjoyed this episode of Three Man Weave, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time, man. Peace. Thunder up. Three
Peace.
man, three man, three man.
Three, man.